Hey friends, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. I put these out every single Monday just to highlight the meals that I have made for my family over the week. Sometimes my recipes are like a whole dinner, like the main course. Sometimes we're having leftovers, so I just give you guys a quick side dish recipe that you might enjoy. It just really varies, but every week I try to have at least 4 recipes on here that are new for you guys. We like to try new things, and I love to share that with you, but we also love our old favorites and we love leftovers. So sometimes, there's a lot of repeats in here. Anyway, let's go ahead and kick this one off. So if you watch my videos, you know that a couple weeks ago I got some lamb chops from Sam's Club, and we are making those today. I have cooked lamb chops like once, maybe twice in my life. I've worked more with ground lamb than I have with lamb chops, so I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone here. I watched a couple of videos and read a lot of things so that I would know what I was doing. And I'm trying to mimic the lamb chops from Longhorn Steakhouse. So I just seasoned them up with Kinder's wood-fired grill seasoning and Longhorn Steakhouse seasoning. I feel like that's going to be the blend that really nails the flavor profile that Longhorn Steakhouse has. Then I'm just letting those guys sit for a minute. So over here on my stovetop, we're going to make some creamed spinach. I have about 2 tablespoons of butter melting, and to it I tossed in a little bit of garlic. We're going to let that kind of simmer and do its thing for just a minute, and then we're going to toss in a whole lot of pepper because we really like pepper in my house. I love fresh ground pepper. My husband really loves fresh ground pepper. And then we're going to add just a little bit of nutmeg. I know it sounds weird, but whenever you do any kind of creamy sauce, that nutmeg, it doesn't add a whole lot of flavor. It's just like a simple warmth that comes through, and that is what I want with this sauce. I'm not following a recipe. I'm winging it. So I will list the ingredients down below in the description box. And like with any of my recipes, I will either link the recipe or list everything down below. Then I added in some heavy cream, just about half a cup, not too much. And I didn't have any fresh spinach to use. The only fresh spinach I had, I actually needed for something else. So we're going to have to use frozen, which I'm currently thawing in the microwave. So while that was thawing, I went ahead and added in about 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, which is why you didn't see me add in any salt. That butter that I used was salted, and the Parmesan cheese is very salty, so we really didn't need to add any salt yet. We'll add it later as we taste to make sure that we don't have it too salty. We'll let that simmer just a little bit, enough that the Parmesan cheese kind of starts to melt and blend in with the sauce, and then we're going to add in the frozen spinach. I only had one of those small little blocks of it, which is fine, but I wish I would have had more. My husband and I both really, really like cream spinach. Oh my gosh, it's definitely a favorite. But this is what I had, and it was just kind of sitting in my freezer because I had actually tried to buy the frozen cream spinach, and they subbed me just regular frozen spinach, and it had just been sitting up there because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. So I used it in this, and it was absolutely delicious. I just went ahead and mixed everything all in, and then I set this off to the side on a low heat and just let it simmer gently until we were ready to eat, and that way it just continued to kind of thicken up a bit. So there is a burner going, as you can see off to the side over there. I'm making some mashed potatoes, which I've shown on my channel before. I'm just boiling potatoes, and I will add in butter, salt, pepper, and heavy whipping cream, and that's that. I will try to find the video where I made them before and link it down below if I can. All right, on to the lamb chops. So I just went ahead and heated up my griddle there, and I'm going to put the lamb chops on, and I'm going to cook them for about 3 minutes on each side, and then I will flip them over and do 3 more minutes. I'm looking to get a really great sear on these. I really need to learn where the best hot spots are on my griddle when I cook meat, because some of them got a beautiful sear and some of them just got a ho-hum sear, but that's okay. Once they cooked for 3 minutes on either side, they have this real thick fat cap on the edge, and I really want it to get a nice sear on that too. So as you can see, I'm kind of holding them up on their sides while I'm flipping around a little bit to get that fat cap seared. And we'll just keep moving them around just a little bit, just for another 2 minutes or so, and trying to get a beautiful sear on all of them. And then I will pull them off, and I let them sit for about 5 minutes before I served them. I plated them on top of the mashed potatoes that I'm making on the other side of the stove. I just set 2 of them on top of the mashed potatoes, which is what they do at Longhorn Steakhouse, and then they serve it with spinach kind of in the mashed potatoes. I'm just making my cream spinach on the side, but I did mix a bite up with everything all together and it tasted phenomenal. Now, this did not come out exactly like Longhorn Steakhouse, but it was a pretty close dupe. I was happy with it. I would definitely, no, I will most definitely make it again. We all really enjoyed it. Well, my husband, myself, and my oldest, my little ones, are not all that into meat, so they don't tend to eat things like this. But we really, really enjoyed these. They had a great flavor. Now, you know, it did taste like lamb. So if you don't like the flavor that lamb has, I mean, you still taste the lamb flavor, but it wasn't as overwhelming as I thought it would be. It really was nice. The meal was so delicious, and there was a lot of flavors that just melded together beautifully. There's the plate, as you can see. So delicious. We'll definitely have this one again. All right, so it is the next night, and I'm actually going to be making some meatloaf here in a minute, but to go with it, I wanted some roasted broccoli. We love roasted broccoli in my house. I have shown this before, but I thought I would just show it again. I just take the little florets off the broccoli like that, and then I kind of just make sure they're all in bite-sized pieces, which is what I'm doing right here. I like them to be in small bite-sized pieces. They're easier to eat, and I feel like they air fry a lot better that way, which is how I will be cooking these. I always air fry my broccoli because that's just the way we like it. I'm going to break down all three of these heads of broccoli that you see right there and get them in that bowl. This takes a few minutes, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it is a little more time consuming than just simply going at it and chopping up the broccoli or leaving it in big florets, but I just feel like this yields a much better product. You can do it however you want to. If you like the big pieces, that's fine too. I just really like the brown crispy edges, and the smaller the pieces are, the more brown crispy edges you get. So I tend to just kind of break this down just a little bit more just to make it a little bit more like what we like. Anyway, once I've gotten all three of them broken down like that, you can see I've got a huge bowl full of broccoli. Looks like a lot more than it is. This cooks down almost by half once you put it in the air fryer. So to it, I'm going to add in some olive oil, some salt, some pepper, and some garlic powder. Don't mind the sauce, the red sauce off to the side. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, this is all I use to season. Well, that's a lie. Sometimes I put a little lemon juice on there too, and that's nice. I did not on this particular day because I was out of lemon juice, but it is good if you put it on there. It adds just a nice, I don't know, a fresh note to it. It's really tasty. But if you don't worry about it. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, and olive oil are perfect. The bulk of the flavor comes with the air frying when it gets the brown crispy edges. That's where you get the most of the flavor, and it is so delicious. Anyway, just make sure you mix really well so that all the flavoring and oil is distributed equally among the broccoli florets, and then pop it in the air fryer, 400 degrees, 15 to 20 minutes. We like it nice and brown, so I do 20, but you do you. Make sure you stir halfway through though. Okay, that red sauce you saw sitting off to the side, let's make that real quick. It is for a meatloaf recipe. This is the first time I am trying this particular recipe, and I was so excited about it. I love meatloaf, guys. I mean, like, I really love meatloaf. So trying a new meatloaf recipe just made me oh so happy. So this one called for a sauce that you're going to put on top of it as well as in the meatloaf. So it is a cup of ketchup, and then you add in some Worcestershire sauce, some mustard, some honey, and some onion powder. This does look like a lot of onion powder when I add it in. I know it calls for a lot of onion powder for such a small amount of sauce here, but it's not overpoweringly oniony. Don't worry. I really didn't taste the onion in there. It tasted mostly like ketchup at the end of the day with a little more sweetness to it. But there was something a little bit different, I guess. I would make the sauce. I wouldn't just put ketchup on. Typically, I just put ketchup on the top of my meatloaf because that's the way I like it. But this was just a little bit different. It was good. But don't worry, the onion is not as overpowering as it looks. Anyway, stir that together really, really, really well. And then I set mine off to the side for like 10 to 15 minutes just to let the flavors meld together because that's how I do things. I feel like sometimes, especially if you're using dehydrated spices like I did with onion powder, it needs a few minutes to just kind of like blend with everybody else and come to life. All right, so let's make some meatloaf. This is the stuffing meatloaf. If you haven't seen it, it's like stovetop stuffing that you put inside of meatloaf. And that is what we're making today. I love stovetop stuffing. I don't eat it very often because my husband cannot stand it. Well, that's not true. He eats it sometimes. He's just not a huge fan. There's a couple of things I make with it that he likes. He just doesn't like it on its own because it's so overpowering. So we started off with some eggs, and then we're going to add in some of that sauce that we just made. I will link this recipe down below in the description box for you guys. I got it, I think, from Pinterest, so I'll link it for you. But anyway, we're going to add in some of that ketchup-y sauce that we made and mix that with our eggs. I like to mix my wet ingredients first just because I feel like they mix better that way, and then you can mix everything into the meat a lot better. But that's just me. You don't have to do it that way. Anyway, I had this pack of ground beef chilling in my freezer for a little while. I didn't repackage it because I wanted to use it a lot quicker than I actually did. I think it's been out there for like a month. But that's okay. We're using it today. It's about 2 pounds. We're just going to break it up and mix it in with that egg ketchup mixture. I like to get the liquids like incorporated decently enough throughout the meat before we add anything else in there, because I felt like once we added that stuffing, it was going to just suck up all the moisture that is there. And so I wanted to make sure that the eggs and the ketchup sauce were mixed really well in the meat and break up any big chunks. This was not perfectly thawed. The center of it had like a little ice cube in the middle, so I was trying to break that up so that it had lots of flavoring too. And then you just dump the whole box of stuffing mix in there and mix it in really well. This seems like a lot of stuffing for 2 pounds of ground beef. Once you cook it, it's fine, but mixing it in, it seemed like a lot of stuffing. Like, I started questioning my life choices and following this recipe halfway through because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much breadcrumb. I'm never going to get this mixed in. Eventually it came together. It was okay. But it looks like a lot, and it does take a little bit of time to get it fully incorporated. So if you were making this and you feel like it's too much, just know you are not alone. I felt the same way, and it worked out in the end, so it's okay. Anyway, just keep on working it on in there. Usually, if you're working with ground beef, you don't want to like mush it and mash it and toss it around too much. And I try to be careful, like if I'm making hamburger patties, I don't want to like just turn the meat to mush. However, I find when I'm making meatloaf, the opposite is true, and I like to mush it up so that it just forms a really nice meatloaf, So that's what I did. Now, if you have a meatloaf pan, that's fine. I typically just cook mine like this because it's easier to get the grease away from it. I can just pull it out and just pour the grease right off the pan, no big deal. So you can cook it however you want to. This is just how I tend to do it. The recipe said to go ahead and put the glaze on now. I did not feel like that was okay because it's going to bake for an hour. And I just thought to myself, man, that just doesn't seem like a good idea. There's so much honey in here and so much sugar in the ketchup, it's going to burn. So I cooked mine until it was about 15 minutes away from being done, then pulled it out and glazed it and popped it back in, and it was perfect. The glaze did start to burn just a little bit around the very bottom of the meatloaf. So I'm going to tell you, you can try it the way the recipe says if you want to, but I would advise not putting the glaze on until it's about 10 or 15 minutes away from being done. And there it is. It was moist and juicy and delicious. It was oh so good. I served it with some leftover mashed potatoes and that roasted broccoli. We will definitely have this again. It was awesome. Okay, so it's the next night, and obviously that made a lot of meatloaf, so we're having it again. I didn't really want to show me reheating meatloaf, but I am making a side dish that I have not made before, so I thought I would bring you along for this. If you've watched my cooking videos, I've been making that adult mac and cheese that Frankie Salenza on Struggle Mills makes. So I'm kind of making that and changing it a little bit. We went out to eat like 2 or 3 weeks ago at this place that had a green chili mac and cheese, and I really, really liked it. So I'm going to combine that with this adult mac and cheese. I started off by heating a little bit of oil in my saucepan there, and then to it we're going to add in some crumbled bacon. I mean, you can cook bacon from scratch if you want to. I buy this big bag of real bacon crumbles from Sam's Club for things like this just because it cuts down on time. It tastes great once you cook it like this. You can't tell the difference. I've cooked it with eggs to make burritos and all kinds of stuff. So I like this stuff. I think it's a great shortcut. It just has to be the real bacon crumbles. So then I went ahead and added in a small bag of pasta. My husband and I are the only ones that are going to eat this. So this will make 4 servings of mac and cheese. But it's a really tiny bag. It's those ones that are like 43 cents at the grocery store. I'm not sure how much pasta's in the bag. I will try to list it down below in the description box. Anyway, I tossed that in there with the bacon and the oil, and I let it just kind of fry for a few minutes. And then I added in a little bit of garlic, probably about 1 clove of minced garlic. And then we're going to start slowly adding in some water. The idea of this mac and cheese is you don't want to put all your water in at once. You want it to slowly soak up the water over the cooking time. And it creates a really, really starchy cooking liquid, which is what we're going to use in place of a roux to make homemade mac and cheese. So I just kind of add enough water to barely cover the pasta and let that cook and boil for a little while. And then once the water cooks down a whole lot, I test the pasta. And if I need to boil it a little bit more, I will add a tiny bit more liquid to it. Generally, this does the trick. That amount of water just covering the noodles typically will do the trick. You're going to have excess water in the pot, and that's okay. You're supposed to. It's normal. It's the way the dish is supposed to be. That is going to be our starchy water that we're going to use as the roux to make the cheese sauce. So once I felt like this had cooked down enough, then I went ahead and added in the rest of my ingredients. It was a can of diced green chilies. I got some fire roasted diced green chilies. Man, those are good. Those are so, so good. I thought they were better than the regular green chilies. That fire roasted just adds an element of flavor that, you don't get all the time, and it was so perfect. So I added in the roasted diced green chilies, and then I'm going to toss in 2 different kinds of cheeses. I had some sliced up mozzarella cheese in my fridge that I had used for something else. I had been needing to get rid of it. I didn't want to waste it. So I thought, well, that'll be perfect. So I just tore up a couple of slices of the mozzarella cheese and tossed it in. And then I added some shredded cheddar cheese. We like it really cheesy, so I added in a lot of shredded cheddar cheese. You can add in less. That's totally up to you. I would say probably 3/4 of a cup would probably be good because I added in the mozzarella cheese, but I probably went a little bit over a cup because that's just how we are. Anyway, I also added in a little bit of salt, not much, just a tiny bit. But we're going to go ahead and just stir everything together and let it cook for just a little bit, not long at all. You just want the cheese to melt, and then we're going to transfer this over to a casserole dish. There's still going to be a lot of liquid. Don't worry, don't panic. It's going to be okay. So when I put this in the casserole dish, you're going to see me top it with a little bit more shredded cheese, and then on top of that, just some breadcrumbs from my pantry, the kind that come in the can, and that's it. I popped it in a 400-degree oven, and I let it bake for about 15 minutes, and by the time it does that, the cheese sauce thickens up even more. It soaks into the pasta, and it is absolutely beautiful. Oh, I did add a tablespoon of heavy whipping cream there just because I felt like it needed a little cream. But that's it. It baked and it was absolutely delightful. I really, really enjoyed it. The green chilies added something fantastic to it. If you have not had green chilies in your mac and cheese, I cannot recommend it enough. This was just absolutely wonderful. Okay, so this next recipe, I saw somebody else make, and then I kind of changed it a little bit. Also, my son got this started for me while I was out getting groceries, so I did not film this going into the crock pot or the slow cooker, but I will tell you what I did. This is just a pork tenderloin, and he put it in the slow cooker for me on high, and it cooked for about 4 hours. And then once I was done putting away the groceries and doing my thing, I came over here, and it's almost completely done because it was slightly frozen in the middle. It still needed just a little more time, but that's fine. I added in a cup of water and a teaspoon of chicken base because I don't have any chicken broth. So we're just making our own chicken broth, chicken stock, whatever you want to call it. But I added that into the pot, and then we're going to add in a can of green chili enchilada sauce. This is not the one I normally use. They didn't have what I normally use. So I'm just kind of working with what I was able to get, and that's okay. Sometimes it just works out that way. Typically I get the Hatch brand green chili enchilada sauce with roasted garlic. It tastes, so good. So much better than any other green chili enchilada sauce, but it just wasn't available today. So I went ahead and just got regular green chili enchilada sauce. To it, I'm also going to add a can of those fire roasted green chilies, and I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of some onion powder. I'm going to put in a little bit of cumin, and I realized that I had not opened my cumin yet, so I had to stop and open that because it had that plastic seal protector thing on it. Cumin's not my favorite spice, but this was one of those dishes where it was definitely necessary, and I did probably about a 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of that in here. And We're also going to add in some garlic because I couldn't get the roasted garlic green chili enchilada sauce. I'm just adding in garlic to the dish here, which is fine. And it really, once it cooked, it tasted similar to my enchilada sauce that I normally use. So this was fine. But I'm going to add that in, and we're going to stir this around and make sure everybody's in the pool having a good time. I went ahead and flipped over the pork tenderloin, and then we'll put the lid back on and let this cook for like another hour or so. I let it finish cooking, and as you can see, it's totally done now. It's really soft. It's really, really tender, which is exactly what you want. So we're going to go ahead and just shred this. I just used a couple of forks and went to town on it. It didn't take long at all. It fell apart beautifully. It was so nice and tender. As you can see, it was coming out in long strips, and I just cut it in half with a fork. That is how nice and tender this was. It really was a good pork tenderloin. I don't cook with these very often because I'm not a huge pork fan, but I did pick some up on sale not too long ago, and I forgot how easy these are to work with. So I will probably be cooking with these a little bit more often just because they are so easy and inexpensive too. Because I got them on sale, they were like, one time I got them for buy one, get one free, and the other two I got were marked down and they were like $1.99 per pork tenderloin. So I have a couple floating around in my deep freeze that I really, really need to use. So this was a great use of pork tenderloin. We will definitely be having this again. My oldest, this is one of his favorite dishes. He gets it from a local restaurant. So he was really, really thrilled. I think this would probably work well with like a beef roast as well. Even chicken, if you really wanted to, would probably taste fantastic in here. But this pork, really, it was cheap, it was easy, and it was so, so delicious. Anyway, once I'm done shredding it up, I'm just putting it back in my slow cooker with all that beautiful juice that's in there. And then I'm going to add a cornstarch slurry in, which is just equal parts of cornstarch and water. You don't have to do that if you want it super liquidy. We did not. We wanted it thicker. So I added in my cornstarch slurry. It was like a tablespoon of cornstarch, a tablespoon of water, mixed them up really, really well so that there's no lumps or clumps. And then I poured that right in. And then I let this cook for like another 30 minutes just to thicken up. And it was so beautiful and delicious and tasty. Oh, this one was so, so, so good. We thoroughly enjoyed this dish. I just served it with some tortillas on the side, just, kind of like a stew that you could dip tortillas in and eat the meat. It was awesome. You guys have got to try this one. So, so delicious. All right, so the last meal of the week is one that I am just making up as we go. It's some ravioli in a lemon cream sauce. That's what I'm going to call it. That's what it is. I saw something when I was on the app looking at things that were on sale at H-E-B. They had a freezer meal kind of like this. I didn't want to pay for it, so I'm just kind of making it the way I think it would be made. So I'm going to start off with some butter. That's really only about a tablespoon of butter, and I'm going to let that melt in the pan and get all nice and delicious. And then to it, we're going to go ahead and add in some garlic. That's probably about 2 cloves of minced garlic. We're going to let that cook for, just like a minute or so because garlic burns very, very easily. We just want it to get all nice and fragrant. Then I'm going to season this up. Tons of pepper. Really got to have some pepper, especially because this will be a cream sauce. You really want to go heavy on that pepper because it shines through beautifully in cream sauces. And then we're going to toss in fresh spinach. I tossed in quite a lot of spinach, and I think I could have done more. That's probably about 2 cups of spinach. Really, I think next time if I make this, I'll probably do more like 4 cups of spinach because it wilts down so very much. This was really good though. I mean, it turned out beautifully, and you got to have a starting point to know what you're doing anyway. So this was my test run with it. I liked it. We'll have it again. I went ahead and just kind of cooked this. You want the spinach to wilt down and do its thing. I am adding in a tiny bit of this white wine. I've been trying to use this up. It's probably about a tablespoon or so. I'm trying so hard to use that wine up. Because this is a lemon cream sauce, I thought, well, this will be the perfect thing to kind of use to add a little liquid to the pan to help cook that spinach down. And it was. It did add a really nice burst of flavor. But we'll let that spinach saute and cook and do its thing. As you can see, I am cooking some ravioli in that other pan on the stove. It's just frozen cheese ravioli. You could use any kind of ravioli you want, and I think anyone would taste fantastic. This is just what I bought because I knew it would be a very nice neutral flavor. I actually have some pumpkin ravioli still in my freezer, and I think I might try this recipe again with the pumpkin ravioli next time. We'll see. All right, so to that I did add in about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I did say it was a lemon sauce. I think I could have gone a little more on the lemon at the end of the day once I tasted it, but I was afraid it would be too much. Now I'm going to add in some heavy whipping cream. I'm trying not to go too crazy with the whipping cream, but we do need, you know, a saucy base here. So I probably did about a cup of heavy whipping cream. I was trying to go as light as I could because I don't want too much sauce, but I wanted a creamy sauce. We're not having a ton of ravioli back there, so I didn't want to go overboard. I felt like I needed just a tiny more bit of liquid, so I added in 1 tablespoon of wine just because I felt like the sauce was a little tighter than I wanted. And that's okay. You could add in lemon juice in its place, or you don't have to put wine in at all, or you could add in chicken stock. Totally up to you. Whatever you've got on hand, whatever you want to use, no big deal. You can kind of make this your own way. But anyway, I'm going to let this kind of cook and simmer and warm up and get all nice and delicious. And then we're going to come in and add a few more things to this. So essentially what I'm kind of making is a homemade Alfredo with lemon. I mean, it's pretty similar to that. I guess that's basically what it is. It was really, really good. Very tasty. I'm going to add in some Parmesan cheese there. I just use the shaker kind. I mean, you could totally use the good stuff. I don't always have that on hand just because it is more expensive and it doesn't last as long in the fridge. This stuff lasts forever. So I typically always have this, and it works. You know, I know that real Parmesan, fresh Parmesan tastes so much better, but this works. It does its job. So I get away with using it pretty often, and I think it's good. All right, so I'm also going to add in a little bit of sliced mozzarella. Like I said, a recipe or two back, I've been trying to use it up because I didn't want it to go bad. And I thought, oh, a nice, you know, Alfredo style sauce would be a perfect place for a little bit of mozzarella cheese. And it was great. I just tore up the last 2 slices that were in the pack and put them in the sauce. And now the mozzarella cheese is gone, which is perfect because I didn't want to waste it. So I let that simmer on the stove and continue melting the cheese so it could get all ooey gooey and delicious. I'm draining the ravioli off to the side over there. And then I'm also going to add in, I had some of that roasted broccoli that I made earlier in the week. I still had a tiny bit left, and I had been meaning to eat it for lunch and I hadn't done it. So I'm just going to go ahead and toss it in this sauce, which I think was perfect. It added a really great flavor, but as you can see, I just mixed it with the ravioli, and we had some garlic bread on the side. It was so good. You could have some chicken on the side if you want to, if you want some meat in the meal. I just did it vegetarian style. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's What's for Dinner video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go ahead and click that like button. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye.